Support for the production of Making a Chef comes from Methodist Senior Services, serving older adults with 12 campuses across the state, offering a range of options for housing and services to help elders transition into the next stage. Methodist Senior Services, celebration, innovation, and hope. And Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Mississippi, encouraging wellness through personal engagement and access to quality health care. Because it's about you, your health, and your life. More information is available at bcbsms.com.
I love smoked meat, and brisket is my favorite smoked meat. So I decided to try to make brisket for myself. I've never made it before. I always wanted to cook new things. So I decided to whip out the old smoker and do some modifications. So I got a cardboard box, duct tape, and fire, and I thought I was a genius. Turns out I'm not a genius, and this is what happened. Yeah, so like 20 minutes in, cardboard burned down. My meat fell out of my smoker, and I was just mad. So yeah, this is what happens when you try to smoke with Mark the Chef. So I need someone to teach me how to make the perfect brisket. Oh wow, that's amazing.
I'm Wes Shelton, and I smoke brisket. Basically, in college, when I was on my own, I got my first Weber, and then just kind of started experimenting with that, as far as how to do a butt. By trial and error, we figured out finally how to do brisket on our big pit as well. That's kind of where it's all come to. From starting with a Weber smoking to using the big green egg and then larger pits.
So Mr. Wes, I love cooking brisket, but past 2 or 3 times I have not been able to get a good brisket. So is there anything you can show me to make a perfect brisket?
Well, let's start from the beginning. What we're gonna do here is we're gonna take our brisket and we're gonna trim it up, and then we're gonna season it. And we're gonna use 2 simple things, salt and pepper.
Perfect, yeah.
So what I want you to do is let's look at the brisket, let's take a look at it. So we've got some hard fat down here that we want to get removed. So then we've also got some fat cap here, and we want to kind of take that down to 1/4 inch.
Yes, to make even thickness around, yeah.
Exactly, so we want to kind of just trim this thing up. If you like, let's get started. So the big thing is right here, we just talked about it. This big fat piece of fat right here. So we're just gonna take our knife, and if you get too much meat, that's not the end of the world. We just want to get this big hard piece trimmed up. Just any of this hard fat. So just take the knife and just kind of take a little bit off this, and we'll work our way over here. So now, I think we've got everything trimmed up as much as we need it. What I like to do is, I said, we use kosher salt, so
nice coarse ground.
Exactly, so we can see what we're doing. So if you want to grab some salt, all we're going to do is we're going to cover it liberally. We're not going to salt it down like a ham, but we're just going to go all over. Now, I think the key to barbecue is, and what people don't do, is add enough salt.
Yes, salt enhances flavors. I mean, this is, I'm just guessing, 10, 12 pounds.
Yeah.
It needs a lot of salt. The outside looks like it's over-salted, but it'll penetrate some on the inside.
Exactly, so you can kind of pat that in.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing I think about brisket is the pepper. We're gonna coat this in pepper. So if we run out, we have more. It's gonna turn black, so we don't wanna see the brisket. So basically now we're gonna flip this over, and
oh wow, look at that. Beautiful piece of meat.
What we put on there is gonna just kind of get pressed in. So we're gonna repeat the process again with our kosher salt. But you can see this is totally coated. We can't even hardly see the brisket anymore. Now we're ready to put it on the pit tomorrow.
All right.
We'll let everything kind of marry up overnight and just kind of sink in.
Yeah.
And then we'll pick up tomorrow and we'll put it on the pit, and then we'll talk about the rest of the fun.
Perfect.
The first challenge of a brisket is seasoning it. Then the next thing is, with any pit, is to keep an even temperature. So you're gonna set your desired temperature, whether it be 225 or 250. It takes a little time And speaking of time, time is just a relative thing when it comes to barbecuing. We're gonna say it takes about 4 hours. That doesn't mean it's gonna take 4 hours. It just means in about 3.5 hours, we need to start checking our temperature. Temperature is the most important thing. We don't wanna be under, which is easy to do, but in the case of brisket, we don't wanna be over. If you go over 204, you run the risk of it becoming barbecue. We wanna slice our brisket. And if we have to shred it, that's not the end of the world, but that's not our goal.
How long am I gonna cook this brisket?
Well, what we're gonna do, we're fixing to put it on, and we're gonna let it cook for about 3 to 4 hours until we get an internal temp at 165. So if you'll grab the egg, go ahead and open that up, and we'll get to cooking. So we're gonna put that right in the middle. We've checked our brisket, it's at 165, so now we're gonna wrap.
All right.
So let me grab that off the egg.
Any particular reason why you wrap?
Well, it's also known as the Texas crutch. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna wrap it up, keep it in its own juices, keep any moisture from coming out. And you can see we've got a nice crust on here. Mark, why don't you go ahead and wrap it for us?
All right.
Get it good and tight, and we're gonna wrap it again one more time.
So we're basically steaming it now, aren't we?
We're letting it baste in its own juices.
Yeah.
So the next time, let's go about 3 hours and then we'll check it. And we want to be close to 204 as we can get. And once again, we'll check for feel. Let's let this egg sit for a little while and
Be back in 3 hours, I guess.
sounds great. All right, let's open it up and see what we got.
All right. Wow.
So we've already checked it out. We're at 203. Everything feels right.
Mm-hmm.
A little soft, a little firm. So we're gonna take it off
Oh, wow.
and we're gonna transfer it to this towel. So if you'll wrap it up, it's kind of like,
Any particular reason why you use a towel, or is it just
just
easy?
kind of keep it warm.
Yeah.
And we're gonna stick it in this cooler and let it sit for about an hour.
Oh, okay. Makes a good place to rest.
That's right, it'll rest and then we'll take it out, put it on the cutting board, and then we'll slice it up.
Perfect.
You ready
Can't
to do
wait.
it? All right.
When going to the grocery store, I recommend a 13 to 15 pound brisket. Have a smaller piece of meat. We're gonna get that at 204 a lot quicker, so I would say use a large piece of meat.
All right, Mark, we let it rest in the cooler for an hour. Now it's been resting on the cutting board for about 30 minutes, so let's open it up and see what we got.
I'm ready for this. Oh, wow.
There we go.
That looks awesome. That bark is amazing. That's just,
See how it jiggles? That
yeah.
means it's done right.
There we go. Let me set this out of the way real quick.
So Mark, here's the thing about slicing a brisket. You've got different muscles going different directions. So this part right here is called the flat.
Yeah.
And then we talked about it earlier, it works underneath the point.
Yeah. So you have to cut them.
So we're gonna cut against the grain. Now
Yeah,
you could,
against the grain of that one.
so you could simply slice this away until you see the grain shift.
Yeah.
And then you turn the whole piece of meat the opposite direction and slice more.
Yeah.
What I like to do is, I like to find the sweet spot
Oh, I see.
and go ahead and
it.
separate.
Yeah.
So now,
Wow. Oh,
we got 2 pieces of meat.
wow. That's amazing.
We'll go ahead and slice this flat. And you want to slice this super thin.
I can just see the juices seeping out of it. Oh,
We got some great color.
nice smoke ring around it.
Exactly. Now we've got the point, which is my favorite part because it has plenty of fat on it.
Yeah, I see all that fat. My goodness, that's so juicy. It's just falling out. I have to try a little bit.
Go ahead and take a bite. What do you think?
That's awesome. I mean, I can taste that black pepper. Nice little bite to it.
So now let's take your plate.
I can taste the smoke and the hickory in it. Adds a nice little depth of flavor to it.
And we only use 2 things.
Yep, salt and pepper. I mean, doesn't need anything else. Oh, so I see the difference. I mean, this one is a little drier, and this one's so much more moist. Thank you, Mr. West. I mean, I had a great time learning how to cook brisket. I guess really the main points of all of this experience is trim up your beef really well, maintain the perfect temperature, and then have a lot of patience, and also use plenty of salt and pepper.
Mark, I had a great time here with you today. Thanks for having me in your kitchen. Now let's eat the brisket.
Oh yes, sir, I can't wait.
Dig in.
I'm in the kitchen today with Dr. Brent Fountain. He's a registered dietitian with the MSU Extension Services. He's gonna teach me how to make some healthy meals and make some healthy substitutions in my everyday cooking. Thanks for being here, Mr. Brent.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Yes, sir. So I see a wide range of vegetables. I see some starches. I see spices. So what do we have here?
So today we're going to take a spin on guacamole. First, if you will, is to cut up about half of that red onion for me.
I can do that.
Any of these dishes are going to hold up in your refrigerators. That's a good part of it.
Yes.
What it's going to allow us to do is something we can have whenever we're ready for a snack. So you put in about a half a cup of red onion there. All right, so we'll take the avocado, and we're going to use all of the avocado next.
Okay.
And like I said, avocado is a healthy fat, so
It's also slick.
it's very slick, yeah. Our bodies need fat. Avocado's a healthy source of fat. It's natural and something that we can, again, don't want to consume too much of it, but in this guacamole, it's going to be perfect. So now, next thing we're going to do is cilantro. So let's do about a tablespoon of that. Pinch off what you want to do, and you're just going to kind of dice that up real fine, just kind of mince it. About as fine as you can get it. It's looking good. Next, we're going to add our spices and our seasonings.
Okay.
So what we've got here, we've got 1 teaspoon of salt, and we've got 1 teaspoon of cumin, and we've got a half a teaspoon of garlic salt. So we're just going to add all of those in there. And then next, you're just going to take that fork and just blend it up, just kind of smash it together. Some people like really chunky guacamole. Some people like it really smooth.
Yeah.
So I think this one actually, because of the cottage cheese, works better with it to still have a little bit of chunk to it. So you have a little bit of texture and it's not quite blended so well. So yeah, that's looking good. So we can set that over here. And now this is a 16-ounce cottage cheese. Like I said, that's large curd, but if you had gotten small curd, been fine to use as well, because you're going to blend it up in the process.
Add it all?
Add it all, whole thing. This is a good source of protein. All of your cheeses all of your dairy products are a real good source of protein, but they're also a good source of your carbohydrate too. Nice, I think that's perfect. So next what we're going to do is we're going to mix all of that in. Because of the volume of it, we're cutting the fat in it because we're using the low-fat cottage cheese. So it actually ends up being a really healthy dish. Now you're going to just mix that together. And then what we're going to do with the cheese is we're going to put this is 4 ounces of low-fat shredded cheddar.
Okay.
So again, we've reduced the fat, so we've reduced the calories there. And we're going to add all but just a little bit for a garnish. Now, what do you typically eat with guacamole when you think of guacamole?
Chips.
Chips, right? Instead of chips, we've got some red bell pepper here. And so we're going to take some red bell pepper, and that's actually going to be what we scoop it with. Grab a little bit there.
Oh wow, that's amazing. I mean, that's as good as or even better than just dipping with chips. Wow, it's amazing. Well, that's one great substitution. So can you top that one?
I don't know, but I'll try.
Awesome. So while having a big smoker is awesome and totally fun to use, it's not exactly practical for everyday life. So I'm gonna show you how to make an inexpensive tabletop smoker that does just as well in infusing the smoke flavor, but is a little more practical for everyday life. So this brisket is pre-trimmed and cut up into a size that can fit inside our smoker. So this is gonna be our basic spicy rub. So it has a lot of flavor and a lot of color to it, so it's very pleasing to the eyes. It's really simple too. First part, 2 tablespoons each of smoked paprika and regular paprika, a tablespoon each of garlic powder and onion powder, a tablespoon of white pepper, and half a tablespoon of mustard powder. I'm also gonna throw in a few cracks of fresh black pepper just to get the freshness of the black pepper. But to make a nice thick bark on the outside like Mr. West suggested, I'm using pre-cracked black pepper. And of course, a little salt. You always need your salt to season anything. All right, so this rub is all nice and mixed up. The reason I'm using more spicy, more in-your-face rub than compared to salt and pepper is just because I'm trying to impart a lot of flavor onto this piece of meat. So I like to get a nice thin coat all around on the first run and just press it in and then come back later with a thicker coat. A good rule of thumb to tell if your brisket is seasoned enough with the spicy rub is to see if it's red like clay. If it is, like this is, then it's nice and seasoned. So I'm gonna put on a little bit of pre-cracked black pepper just to give a crust. All right, so this is nice and rubbed up. I'm gonna go ahead and wash my hands so we can build the smoker. So you remember my first experiment that we showed you? Yeah, it was pretty bad. So this is gonna be a new experiment that actually works. So you're gonna need 2 aluminum pans, aluminum foil, wood chips, cotton balls, a wick, that's just a paper towel, X-Acto knife, and alligator clips. So first cut you need is X-Acto knife and your bottom pan. All right, so there's ridges right here. There's 6 of them. So I'm gonna count 1 in and about 3/4 of the way down, 1/4 of the way down, and just slice. I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3 on the 4th ridge. Same thing. And I'm gonna connect them now. There you go. You have an airflow hole right there. Air will come in and feed the fire. So I'm gonna set that aside. So now to the top pan, very simple indeed. On the opposite end of the first hole, cut a X, nice and wide X. Poke up these little things. So this is gonna act as a chimney to let smoke out and also promote a little more airflow going through. So I'm gonna set that aside again. And here's the bottom piece. I'm using hickory wood chips. Wood chips burn a little quicker than some other things such as pellets or whole logs, but they're very convenient and you can find them pretty much in any home improvement store. So I'm gonna lay a few down. Not a ton, so just kind of arrange them in a line and put your wick in. This is just a plain old paper towel we use as a wick to be able to reach in and light it better. So feed it through the hole. Leave just a little out, and you're good. And so along the end, all the way up to the paper towel, place 2 or 3 cotton balls on it. Grab hickory chunks, and then lay them on top of everything. Make sure you leave the cotton balls exposed to air so they don't smother. All right, so that looks good to me. So I'm gonna place the cotton balls again on top. Next part, to make sure you don't have any flare-ups and it burns the bottom of the brisket, aluminum foil. This is just single layer, it's not heavy-duty aluminum foil. Place it lengthwise and cover the wood. Might take you a few times to adjust it to make sure you don't cover up the air hole. All right, so that looks good to me. I'm just gonna poke a few holes in the top to let the smoke rise up better. On top of this aluminum foil, we have just a $1 sheet tray right here. It's a half sheet pan, and so you place it on top. Once you situate it, let's go grab the brisket. This will be able to support it, so just be careful with it. And so, opposite end of the airflow, put this hole right there. Just take some alligator clips and lock it down on all 4 sides. All right, guys, that's it. Let's go outside and light it. So as you can see, we're now outside. Here's our smoker with the meat in it on top of 2 bricks, just so I don't burn the table. Just take a stick lighter or a lighter or matches or whatever you have and light it. All right, now just watch it for a few minutes. Make sure it lights and smokes. Yeah, it's not working. So the fire died because the wind's a little strong today. So I just have one of these wax cubes. They come in a pack of 24 at the home improvement store. They're $2 to $3. Place it right on top of the paper towel and light it. Now that the fire's lit, we're gonna put a double layer of aluminum foil on top of it. Go ahead and assemble the smoker just as before and you're ready to go. I'm gonna let it smoke for about an hour to an hour and a half to infuse a nice smoky flavor into it. This has been smoking for about an hour and a half, and now it's time to transfer to a pot and take it back up to the kitchen. Oh wow, see, it's developed a little bark to it. It's a little cooked, but still a lot of cooking to go. Looks amazing. I know this is a pink pot, but I actually like the color, and it's my mom's, and for Pete's sake, it's a Le Creuset. You can't go wrong with those, so get over it. Oh wow, look at that. Ooh, the fat started to render. It smells amazing. Wish y'all could smell this. Transfer it to the pot. Let's head back up to the kitchen. So we made it back to the kitchen and we have the brisket, and this thing looks amazing. I'm gonna cook it in a 350-degree oven for 1 hour uncovered with a little bit of beef broth. And so the reason I'm using beef broth is just because I don't want the brisket to dry out. It provides a lot of moisture and flavor to the party. So I'm not gonna use a whole lot. I'm just gonna use probably 1/4 of a can right now, just get a little bit. All right, time to put it in 350-degree oven for 1 hour. Then after that 1 hour, decrease it to 300 degrees, pour the rest of your can of beef broth in, put the lid on, and let it cook for 2 hours until it's done. So we're back in the kitchen with the briskets resting. My friend Jay Reed here is a local food writer and blogger around town, and he's gonna help me make quick pickled onions and test out these delicious briskets. So Mr. Jay, I need some help making stuff because I have to cut up onions. Can you help mix everything up? But before you do that, please name off all the spices you can.
All right, well, I know this is a mustard seed. That's your black peppercorn.
Yep.
Looks like paprika.
Smoked paprika.
Probably smoked, okay.
Yep.
And that's dill.
That's dill.
And that's just like some granulated garlic.
Perfect.
And that could be sugar or salt.
It's sugar and salt, just to get a bunch of flavor into it.
Gotcha.
So can you go ahead and add just our vinegar? There's 3/4 cup of apple cider vinegar and 1/4 cup of white vinegar.
Gotcha.
So you can go ahead and mix in all the spices except these whole spices. And so right now I'm just peeling and going to julienne this white onion. So Mr. West says he likes his brisket served on white bread and pickled onions. And so we decided to go ahead and try out his combination because, you know, he does know what he's talking about when it comes to brisket.
He can cook.
So one of the reasons why I chose this paprika is because it gives a nice color to it, and instead of making it just all white and a little plain and all that good stuff, it makes it very colorful.
Oh yeah, that'll be great. And it's delicious.
All right, that looks perfect. So go ahead and add in those whole spices, would you? All right, so that looks perfect, Mr. J. So I'm just gonna go ahead and add in these onions. Let's see how many that looks. Probably need a little more. All right, Mr. J, those look really good. So I'm gonna go ahead and try one real quick.
Already got a little flavor?
Oh my. I'm gonna go ahead and set these to the side for about 15 minutes to let them infuse with all this flavor.
All right, so it's kind of a quick pickle then.
Correct. So we have our sandwich making set up, all done and ready to make sandwiches. I'm ready to go. Look at that. Look how beautiful that is.
It smells pretty good too.
It smells amazing. All right, so I mean, look at that. It's not quite as tender as that one is, but I mean, being a homemade smoker, it's pretty close. Here, try you a piece.
All right, watch my finger there. Oh, that's moist. I can tell already.
Oh, wow.
I gotta be honest, this is much moister than mine is. And maybe the length of cooking or the the juices it was sitting in, but whatever you did, this is tons moisture, tons more moist.
I mean, I'm still surprised. It has a smoke ring on it. It's some pieces better than others, but you can see that light pinkness. So Mr. J, why don't you go ahead and grab 2 slices of bread and start dressing your sandwich? I'll cut it for you. Yeah. Let's get you 2 slices.
Oh yeah, I was gonna get 2
Okay,
slices.
good.
You don't need to worry about that.
All right, so is that all you want?
That'll do for this one. All right.
I think I'll go ahead and make my own. You ready to try it?
Let's go.
Moment of truth.
Absolutely.
I'm a little messier than you. So
I don't know about that. Meat and bite.
For being a smoker, made with $3.50 of supplies, that's pretty good brisket.
Absolutely. Anybody could make that.
All right, Mr. J, that was delicious.
Pretty good.
And it's gonna be kind of hard to beat in my opinion. So we're gonna do another set of sandwiches.
All right.
With this. This has been smoked for about 8 and 9 hours on the big green egg like Mr. West taught us. So I mean, look at that. So this one has more bark.
I was gonna say, it looks a little darker right off.
Yes, it has more bark compared to the other one. So I'm gonna go ahead and just slice it. So right off the bat, I can already tell it's not quite as juicy as the other one, but you can see that smoke ring.
The smoke ring is really clear.
Yes.
Not as moist, but still moist.
So let's go ahead and make some sandwiches out of this.
All right,
First bite, you ready?
I'm ready. Let's see.
This one makes a better sandwich.
I would agree.
Really good sandwich. Maybe with a little barbecue sauce on top, just moisten it right up. Be delicious.
So I'll take this one home. And
So what do you think of these 2 brisket options, Mr. J?
I think they're both great. The different rubs, I mean, they're both good. The moisture content was a slightly different, but it didn't make enough difference to make me not want to eat the whole thing. And I'm more a pulled pork kind of guy. I went to Texas on a trip and decided to get brisket because I knew that was the Texas thing, and I was overwhelmed. And so now even here in Mississippi, when I go to a place that has brisket, I'll order it a lot of times, and I make it at home too.
I agree. I mean, brisket, ribs, and pulled pork are probably my 3 favorite barbecued meats. And, you know, I gotta say, if you get brisket right, it's kind of hard to beat it.
That's for sure.
Thanks for stopping by, being my taste tester, and being my critic. I had a whole lot of fun with you, Mr. J.
Absolutely, anytime.
Yes, sir. There you have it. That's 2 awesome ways to make brisket. I think I've redeemed myself from my cardboard accident, but you be the judge. That's how you make brisket, y'all. Remember, season it simply and cook it long and slow. Big thanks to Bell's Building Supplies for loaning us the smoker, for Mr. Wes for teaching me how to smoke a brisket, for Mr. J and trying it all in the end. Thank y'all for watching, and I'll see you next time.